Alright, hey, what's up? I'm gonna try to give a tutorial about key binding and movement. I feel they're probably the two most basic and most important things about really any uh, first-person shooter or MMO, especially WoW. The first thing I want to talk about is just key binding. What I do is basically you go into your key bindings, and the first thing I do on any character enable character specific key binding so you don't screw up other characters. But on all my characters, the first thing you want to do is unbind turn left and turn right, and which are normally Q and E. And you want to unbind. Actually, sorry, by default they're A and D. You want to unbind those, and strafe left and right are usually Q and E. You want to bind A and D to those. So basically you use WASD for movement. Um, I'll explain more about that when we get to the movement area. Some people actually also, you can scoot your left hand over to the right. Some people use ESDF to open up more key bindings on the left hand side. Basically, you want to, whichever ones you choose for movement, you want to base all of your abilities around those keys. I usually go from tilde to around 5, and then from QERT, and then F, G, and then Z, X, C, V, B. Basically, you want to put your most used buttons around those. Q and E and 1 through 3 are really easy for me to push. So I put my most used spells. For example, on Mage, I have Blink as Q. It's on a 15-second cooldown, so that's something that you use fairly often. E is Counterspell. I really got that from playing a rogue. Kick was E for me on the rogue. Basically, that silences the target. My main attacks have always been 2 for whatever reason. So anyways, just those make sense to me, and that's really all about keybinding is. Keybinding is a preference. You do what feels comfortable to you. What works for me may not work for somebody else. But anyways, you just do what feels comfortable to you. There's really no right or wrong way. There's good ideas and bad ideas, I guess you could say. As long as your key binding makes sense to you, that's all. Um, for example, mage's shields, I put all of those as shift 1, 2, 3, and 4. Shift 1 through 5, basically. So I have all my shields kind of in the same general area, all my buffs in the same general area. Like I said, all my main attacks around those movement keys. And like I just mentioned, you can use modifiers such as Shift, Control, and Alt on any key on the keyboard. So basically, you could use 1 through 5, Q through T, A through G, Z through B, and then use the Shift, Control, and Alt versions of those. And between that, that triples your keybinds. So that way you don't have to do anything crazy like try to reach over to 7 or like H or something, especially if you have small hands like I do. But for example, like Shift Q, for example, would be much easier to press than say a 7 or an 8 key. So those modifiers really open up a lot of different binds. You can also, I kind of thought of this, but I never really played a caster too much until recently. Things that require you to stand still, you can bind those to WASD, because you're not going to be moving anyways, to open up 4 more key bindings. Well, actually 12 more key bindings. Something like, for example, I don't know, evocation, for example. I can't move while casting evocation, so that would be something I could bind to like a Shift W or something like that. So that's an idea. Keybind everything. There's really the only things I don't keybind are my buffs, because I'm not really normally not going to put those up mid-match. I bind my mount. I don't bind conjure food, but I do bind eating food, because as soon as you get out of combat, you want to spam that to eat in arenas. It's especially helpful for mana classes or healer classes. Just bind everything, even if you have to do it on the number pad. I have a lot of stuff that doesn't require movement on the number pad, so I can actually take my hand off of the mouse and use the number pad. I clicked everything for about a year when I PvE'd a lot on my druid. You can kind of get by with that in PvE because you don't really have to worry about anything coming and killing you. But if you're new to keybinding, give it a shot because it's definitely worth it. It's going to feel really awkward at first, but after a month or so, if you're still feeling awkward, rework your key bindings. For example, maybe you have one of your most common used spells on like G or something, which doesn't make a lot of sense. So maybe try rebinding your keys just to feel more comfortable for you. Keybinds really free up your they free up your mouse basically for better movement. For example, if I'm clicking with this, the only thing I'm going to be able to do is move front to back, side to side while trying to click. So basically I can't pan my camera around to see anything going on because my hand is stuck on my mouse trying to click the whole time, and your movement is going to really suffer. We'll get to that in a minute. One more thing that kind of goes along with keybinds. Oh, before I forget, you can also, some people don't bind shift or not shift, but S. Some people don't bind S to move backwards, which actually makes a lot of sense. I'll explain more on that when we get to the movement area, but really you don't really have a use for going backwards. I still have it bound from when I played Rogue, and I used to 5/8 kite warriors, so I have found uses for it, but a lot of people say just don't even bind that. Anyways, macros are something that kind of goes along with key bindings. I know like warlocks and hunters have a lot of key binds. What you can do is actually eliminate some of those key binds and abilities by kind of combining things into one. You can get to the macros tab by typing /macro. For example, I have a sheep or a polymorph macro. R is polymorph for me. I also have focus sheep. Now you normally could make those two different macros if you wanted, but that's just filling up more space on your bar. So right here I have it. R is focus sheep, and the modifier shift of that is target focus. So I could R will sheep my target, and shift R will sheet my focus target. So basically I just made two keybinds into one. You can do that on multiple things. You can say like you can keybind one specific thing, and within that macro say, well, if I press shift, do this to someone else or do something different. You could even bind two different spells in the same thing. Say, if I press Q, blink, but if I press shift Q, frost nova, or if I press control Q, do something else. Now it gets kind of confusing when you don't have cooldowns on those spells, but you can combine multiple things. For example, I have my water elemental to get him out, and once he's out, the same keybind will frost nova for me. So basically once he's out, I don't need to bring him out again, so I might as well use the same keybind for the frost nova. So anyways, that's macros are a part of keybinding as well. You can usually find a lot of common macros on Arena Junkies, or just Google mage macros or rogue macros or whatever. Anyways, if you have a ton of abilities, it can really make life easier. You can also do a lot of stuff with focus frame, and actually you can target something completely different, have someone as your focus. For example, if I have someone targeted in arena, they won't be able to tell that I'm about to sheep their partner because I don't even have their partner targeted because he's my focus. So anyways, you won't drop your current target while trying to sheep, and you'll sheep your focus instead. Hopefully that makes sense. I may expand on key bindings later, but I just wanted to give a quick tutorial on key bindings and kind of why I do certain things. Okay, what's up? This is the movement part of the tutorial. Basically in this you'll kind of see why I rebound A and D from moving, moving left to right to strafing. Just like key bindings, I mean, movement is key for any class. It really doesn't matter if you're, if you're a melee class or if you're a caster class. Key binding is important, really, for anyone. So basically, I'm gonna show you a little bit of stuff. Before, if we would have had the standard Blizzard keybinds, if A and D didn't turn us around, we would basically actually, let me just rebind A and D to the way it is. Oops. Okay, so basically, if we wanted to turn left, we would press A, and it would turn our character around, and D would turn our character to the right. You can accomplish the same thing by moving your mouse. Hold down your right mouse button, and just spin, and you can move anywhere, left or right. You move your mouse side to side, and you've essentially moved your character quicker than you ever hoped to move while turning around with A and D. Moving forward obviously is pretty easy. You just hit W, or actually you can press both mouse buttons down at the same time. I do this a lot if I'm chasing someone, and that way it frees up my left hand to click on or to press my abilities. So if you're chasing someone or needing to get away, to free up your left hand, definitely pressing down on both keys really helps. Okay, so let me go back in and rebind these. Okay, for example, let's show a little bit of what I mean by backpedaling or moving backwards. I see a lot of hunters do this. I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I see actually a lot of everybody do this, but it's more important for ranged. Let's say I'm killing a mob or a person, and of course we got a caster. He's coming towards me. Him walking is going to be a lot faster than me. Actually, this is a terrible target. Let me go get somebody else. Okay, here we go. These are better targets. Alright, basically, if I'm killing something, me walking backwards, the mob is definitely going to get to me first. I'm never going to get away from a target striking backwards. You see a lot of people doing it. They'll run away and then try to kill something, and they're wondering why they can't get away from rogues or warriors in battlegrounds, because they're running like at half the speed, and sometimes even with crippling poison or hamstring on themselves. So backpedaling, don't do it ever. There's no reason ever to really go backwards when someone's chasing you. Now let's show an example of me shooting a target, and then actually like turning and running. Put a slowing effect on him. He's never gonna catch me. Look how much distance I've gained just by simply turning and running. Anyways, so I mean, you get the point. Backpedaling, don't do it. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Another reason we have rebound A and D. Actually, let me focus on jump turn / kiting. A lot of the really good hunters and really good, I see hunters, the really good hunters do this more than anybody. but the really good range classes are good at this. Basically, the whole idea is you want to kite people and don't waste any time standing casting. I'll show you an example of jump turn and kiting. Basically, you have someone hitting you, you jump turn, you really never lose any ground. You just have somebody, and you're clicking instant spells, and you're never really slowing down. So anyways, that's a idea about jump turning. Another thing I like to show is panning your camera around, like while you're doing certain things. For example, if you're casting maybe a steady shot or frost bolt or chaos bolt or whatever, there's no reason not to pan your camera around looking for other things in arena, like this guy coming up behind me. There's no reason really for me to never see that. That's especially valuable in arenas. You do this by holding your left mouse button down and just panning the camera around. There's really no reason to not do that, especially when you're just casting. And really, like, you know, if you're up on someone and if you know the rogue inside and out, you know, you spam mutilate to your eyes bleed. There's really no reason not to pan the camera around to see, you know, enemy attackers coming up or whatever. Basically, I'm going to show you the reason why we did circle strafe. Let me see if I can do it here. Basically, we don't really have a good. I'm just going to use like the stump or something, I guess. I don't know. Basically, the idea of circle strafing is you want to always be behind your target. You'll see a lot of people just running everywhere, all on top of their target. They're actually like doing more harm than good. They're missing auto attacks. Their swing timers getting reset. It's actually kind of ridiculous and very ineffective. I see a lot of feral druids doing like some kind of figure eights, and they think that's really helping their cause, but it's actually hurting them because they're missing a lot of auto attacks. Alright, so basically one of the reasons why we rebound A and D is so we can circle strafe. You hold your right mouse button down and hold down A, and while you do this, you move your mouse to the right. You can also do it for D. You circle strafe. So basically you can go around something. So basically the idea is to always stay behind someone. You'll have to always adjust back and forth, holding down A or D and your right mouse button and moving your mouse from left to right. While alternating the A and D keys. It's a really simple concept once you get it, and it helps you a lot. The idea of circle strafing is you stay behind your target so they cannot dodge your attacks. It's especially helpful for melee, but it's also helpful to understand that as a range class if someone is on top of you. Circle strafing is, I mean, you pretty much can't play a melee class effectively unless you get that basic idea down. Movement, and then after movement, I don't think any rogue has ever been successful not knowing how to circle strafe. It's less important to some classes. Rogue's probably the most important, rogue and warrior especially, and then really from there any kind of melee class. So that's basically circle strafing. One other thing I meant to say about circle strafing is if you're always behind your target, for example, a caster especially, if they're right in your face casting on you, a lot of times you can jump over your target to cancel cast, or you can, you know, if you're going side to side, unless they're really on top of their game, turning with you while they cast, you may even essentially cancel a spell by basically just outmoving them, cancel spells. Okay, let's see if I can do it here. Hopefully I can get a better, I'll probably touch on this a little more when we talk maybe about arenas or something in a tutorial. But basically, positioning is a big part of PvP and arenas. Positioning is basically key in just all aspects of PvP, mainly due to line of sight, LOS, and just really just logical situations that you may find yourself into. For example, if you're up against a range class, their main goal is to keep you out in the open, and they want to stand in one place while you basically get destroyed. For example, if you're up against a warrior, you see him targeting you. Basically, he's wanting to charge or intercept you. If the warrior's out in the open, you can duck behind pillars to basically annoy the crap out of the warrior. And oftentimes, if you do it enough, he'll just ignore you and go on to somebody else. So, it's really helpful for healing classes in Arena. Okay, basically, what I'm going to try to show you here is line of sight. Basically, when your person is casting, you can just move behind a pillar to cancel their spell. I mean, it's as simple as that. You can come out, do some damage. If you're not going to get a cast off, you just go behind the pillar. It's really as simple as that. This is really helpful for a healing class. If you need to heal somebody and not be out in the open, you can basically just cancel their spells simply by running behind. It's the same way if you're going up against a feral druid. Okay, basically what he's going to try to do is feral charge me, and you can just duck. Like you can see, he's targeting me, and basically he's wanting as fast as possible, and basically he got it off, but you can still line of sight. Basically that's what his main goal is to try to get, for example, a warrior or druid. They're targeting you, they're trying to get charge off. So basically you can just line of sight, and that's really all line of sight is. You basically can just pillar kite them, and it's all about positioning. So anyways, you kind of get the idea about line of sight and movement as well. Movement, I think, is part of positioning. Positioning comes in more so in arenas, and I think maybe I'll have like a kind of a general arena tutorial as well. But I basically just wanted to touch on that in the movement section. So hopefully I haven't rambled on too much and you've learned a little bit of something. Maybe I can also put maybe a more in-depth movement or more in-depth keybinding tutorial together.